Hi, and welcome to Simply Happy Conversations. I'm Narelle King, and in today's solo episode, I'll be sharing ways to create an organised and clutter-free car. This episode was a request from a listener, Megan, who recently left a beautiful review. I'm just going to share a bit of her review. Your advice, tips and recommendations, clear step-by-step instructions, and neuro-supportive approach has allowed me to finally understand and slowly get on top of my house and organisation, which I've struggled with my entire life. I absolutely loved getting this review. I love all my reviews I get, and I would really appreciate if there's tips that you've been taking away and you've been listening for a while, if you could take the time just to go and leave either the star review or a beautiful comment like Megan did. Let's jump into this Simply Happy conversation. Welcome to Simply Happy Conversations. I'm Narelle King, wellness and organisational coach and yin and nidra yoga instructor. This podcast will help you create more time using organisational strategies so that you can start to simplify your life and prioritise your health. I'll be sharing conversations with other health and organisational experts and solo episodes with tips to help you simplify your life and prioritise your health. Thanks so much for joining me for today's solo episode about ways to create an organised and clutter-free car. I'm going to go through and share steps to declutter your car and organise your car, and I'm also going to share some different storage solutions that you might like to try as well. So let's start with the actual car. So if you're ready to declutter your car, the things you're going to need is a rubbish bin and also another container of some kind to put all the things that need to go back into your house that don't belong in your car, or maybe it's also to go in your garage. So you've got those two containers there, and then you start moving from either the back to the front or the front to the back of the car. The next thing is to look at cleaning. So spending like a little bit of extra time tackling those really small parts. And I find that an old toothbrush or even some of those little bottle brushes are great to get some of the dust and crumbs out of the little crevices and little detail that's in your car. Maybe also in the cushions. I also love a hand little vacuum that you can use to do that at the same time. Another thing is like one of those big fluffy brushes that you can use to actually clean the air vents. I actually saw online, I haven't used it myself. It was like a sticky sort of like blue tack that you stick onto your vents and it pulls the dirt out. I'm not sure, I haven't used it, but if anyone has, I would love you to reach out and let me know if that did work. Also, having a lint roller is a great way to get pet hair off the seats. And in your cup holders, maybe if you're sick of trying to clean that out all the time, is even thinking about getting one of those silicone baking cups and sitting that in so it can catch any spills and crumbs rather than you needing to actually clean out the cup holder. Now let's move into the boot or the trunk, depending on whereabouts you are in the world. I like to use a boot organizer to store the things that, that are on your go that you need. So it might be like a first aid kit or cleaning supplies or a picnic blanket. Maybe it's your grocery bags or an umbrella. These organizers can also be good to put kids' school bags in so they're not rolling around in the boot of the car when you're driving around. I actually use foldable cubes that are in my boot. So they fold up and then you don't have to use them. And then I pull them out again when I need them and add the things so that they stay in the one area. These are also really useful for when you have click and collect groceries and they bring the groceries to the boot of your car. They can just put them straight into the boxes and it's a lot easier than actual bags. Another one I've seen is on your back seat is actually having a headrest, and it's an organizer that hangs from there. So it's not actually on the ground of the boot, but it's actually hanging. So that might be, depending on the design of your car, that might be more useful, especially if you have extra seats that you put up and fold down. That might be more useful. So let's move to the front of the car. So in my front of my car, I have a pocket at the side. In that area, I want things that I'm going to grab quickly. So I have things like my hand sanitizer. I have spare cutlery because I'm always eating on the go, and I sometimes forget to grab a fork and put it in for my lunch, so at least I've got spare ones. I actually really like to sometimes brush my teeth after I've had lunch, so I have my spare toothbrush there, and I also have Chewy as well, both for regulation but also just to freshen my breath before I maybe go into a client if I've been eating my lunch in the car. And I also have my masks there for some clients that I need to wear a mask. I have a Ziploc bag and it sits inside it, so it's keeping it nice and clean, but it's also keeping it together as well. I don't actually have a glove box that opens. It's broken. The lock's been broken. If you're lucky enough to have that, that's maybe where you might keep sunscreen, insect repellent, tissues. I actually keep that underneath my seat in little small containers that fit nicely underneath. That's where I keep the things that I would probably keep in my glove box. I also have found a clear acrylic organizer that fits all the really small things into my console in the middle of my car. And it just means it's a little bit easier to find things. So it's like small things like your little tokens that you might use for the trolley. It's got Band-Aids. It's got my lip balm. It has a nail file, sunscreen, like face sunscreen. So it's just small items that I might need on the go and in between clients. Another thing I've seen is really small little Ziploc bags that you could use with a zip at the top and place them in your console just to separate the items, to make it a little bit easier to find rather than it all just being piled in on top of each other. I have a organizer container, very small container, that I place all my receipts in. I need to keep my receipts for my clients and for myself for tax time. When I've been in the shop, instead of it getting lost in my handbag or in my wallet, I just put it straight into this clear container that's solid. And at the end of the month, I bring them in ready to put into my filing system. So this way they stay nice and safe, and it's also one place to keep them. You may use these sort of containers to keep other receipts, or maybe even keep your insurance details or any documentation that comes with your car. It might be the owner's manual, maybe a notebook just in case of those accidents, and a pen as well. Another thing that I have underneath my seat, which you possibly could have in your glove box in a container, is some wipes. So in case I need to mop up a spill or something along those lines. And I also have in there a microfiber cloth, which doubles as my sunglass cleaner, my glasses cleaner, and it can be used on the windows if I need to as well. But that's come in really handy, the two of those being really close and just stored underneath my seat. So they're easy to access as well. Now, some storage solution ideas that I've seen and I also have for myself are a hanging shoe organizer and putting that on the back of the passenger seat to hold everything from like tissues to kids' toys. This is probably a great design, especially when your kids are a lot younger and they need toys nearby and little things that they need. Maybe it could even have snacks if you allow your kids to eat in your car. Another one is to clip a carabiner onto the back of the headrest, or you can purchase an actual hook that goes on the back of the headrest, and that way you could hook hats or jackets or umbrellas, small bags. And I've got both of those in my car and they work really well. I also found cup holders that expand to fit wider drink bottles and cups. Now, I actually went out and bought a different size cup, travel cup for like hot tea in my car that actually fits inside my cup holder. But this is like, in case you've got a bigger one, you can actually get these holders that fit inside the small one and allows your cup to sit in it, which I thought was a great idea. Another one was a car seat gap holder, which I've just invested in because I've actually lost my phone a couple of times. But one in particular, it was nighttime. I thought I'd put my phone on the side and it actually slipped down between my seat and gone under my seat. I still had to go to another client. It was dark outside. I couldn't find my phone to even find the directions to the next client. So I had to go by memory, and I finally found my phone the next day and it had slipped actually underneath my seat and I couldn't see it. And usually I have my phone on silent, so I couldn't ring it to find it. But I'm looking forward to this new gap filler that goes in between your seat and the console so that you can put things like your phone. Another one I talked about before was the little pouches, like the clear zip pencil cases is the ones that I've used, and that you could use in your door or in your console just to keep everything together and also keep it clean, because cars do get quite dirty. Maybe at the back of your car you could look at the actual organizers that fold up, or you could do one like I have and buy those cubes that you can unfold and put out, or you can fold them back up when you're not using them. Another thing that I was always having problems with was my tissue box. It was getting squashed and I couldn't reach it very well. So I invested in a sun visor tissue holder, and it's been fantastic. It's easy to reach, and it also means that my tissues are now not squashed and it's not getting kicked out of the way, because sometimes my kids would get in and throw it into the back seat as well. So now it's in one spot, it doesn't move, and I can reach it as well. My final thing, which has taken me a long time to invest in, but it was one of the best things that I did, was a little car bin that clips on to either the back of your seat rest, or I got one that clips onto the side of the car. So it sits on that side edge of the door and clips on nicely, and you can put a bag in it, and it means no more apple cores dropped underneath my feet, which is a really bad habit that I've had for a very, very long time when I'm eating my apple and I'm driving my car. So now I have a bin there to put that, chewy, anything else. And it means also my kids can pass me the rubbish and we can put it straight into the bin. I hope these cleaning and organising tips will make it easier to keep your car tidy and organised. I know it did for me. A little mantra that I use in my car is what goes in must come out. And I remind my kids all the time to take their rubbish, their food, and anything else that they have in there. Thanks so much for listening to Simply Happy Conversations. Thank you so much for joining me for today's Simply Happy conversation. If you'd like to reduce your paper and digital clutter and free yourself from the overwhelm of clutter so that you can claim back time and space to enjoy the things you love, head over to simplyhappy.com.au in the resource section and grab the declutter checklist and start to reduce your clutter even with small amounts of time. I'd like to acknowledge the Wathaurong people of the Kulin Nation on which this podcast is recorded as the traditional custodians of the land. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging.